I'm back, and I'm filled with a ton of piss and vinegar, and we're gonna go at it with the Trump versus the Commie Squad. Let's get to it. Welcome in, everybody. It's a wonderful, beautiful Monday morning here in Texas. Feel bad for any of you who are stuck in, well, Illinois, where I'm from, but beautiful, warm day in Texas. I got my coffee. Get your coffee. We're going to break down the world of politics. But let's first get to it. I know. It's been a long time since I've done an episode, about 2 weeks, and the summer has been off and on for having the episodes. However, I promise you that's over. It was a lot of medical issues going on, which I'm typically someone who never goes to a doctor. Never goes. Yet I was in it nonstop, getting dealt with a bunch of stuff, and it turns out to be a bunch of nothing, but pretty much is. Couldn't figure out what the heck was going on, and doctors kept giving, well, not the most pleasant diagnoses that they were suspecting it was. However, it turns out to be a stupid little kidney stone and causing all kinds of hell, and now we are here. So that's all dealt with, and we're going to be really breaking down everything in politics going forward, more consistent episodes. Just had to deal with the medical stuff first, and we're all good. So, President Trump, getting into it with the Commie Squad. Now, a lot of people on both the left and right, they don't like it. I love it. I didn't even mind the send her home chance. I liked it. Just send that Ilhan Omar back home, mostly because it seems like evidence is coming out that she broke immigration laws, and she may not even legally be a citizen due to breaking the fraudulent claims on her forms to become a citizen. However, we'll get to that in a moment. I really want to get on to more to what happened with this ICE Antifa attack. What the heck happened? So, I guess it was not this weekend, but last weekend. And again, sorry, it's been a while since I've had an episode. But we're going to get to it because it's still kind of important. The left kind of ignores all what happened. So as we know, first, there was the American flag getting torn down in Colorado at an ICE facility, and the Mexican flag rising up from Antifa protesters and I'm sure other radical leftist Fruit Loops who hate America. And then they send up also a police flag, the American police flag, with the blue stripe, and it's not red, white, and blue, but it looks like the American flag. I don't have a picture to pop up for you, but I'm assuming all of you already know what it looks like anyways. And they flew that up when they just vandalized the crap out of it. It was disgusting. But that wasn't the most disgusting one, though. That was disgusting and morally reprehensible. The most disgusting is an Antifa member went in Tacoma, Washington, went and tried to shoot up and blow up the ICE facility. Now, why was this guy going about trying to do it? Now, a lot of right-wing sources aren't going to name the names, but you know what? I don't really care. I mean, they're not watching anyways, and I don't think this is giving them the fame they're looking for either. So, the member, one of the Antifa members, he's 69 years old. William Van Spruzen, 69 years old. This guy goes in there and tries to blow it up. Now, he gets stopped after he's throwing trying to throw fire bombs. He blew up a car. But he was stopped by police officers and ended up in a shootout, and the 69-year-old Antifa member was shot and killed. Well, because you're going against the police, so typically that's not going to pan out too well for some Antifa member who doesn't even like guns. Now, this individual, I might have a picture. Let's see if I have one. Yeah, there we go. I do have one. Well, there you go. So this is William Van Spruzen. This is the 69-year-old Antifa member. Yeah, 69. Can you imagine your life? You're 69 years old. And you're part of Antifa. 69 years old and you're part of Antifa? How pathetic is that? How pathetic of a life that is. However, why does he go and try to blow this up? What was his purpose? Well, his purpose was, he released a manifesto, which we're going to break down a little bit of that manifesto here in a minute. But in the manifesto, he spews the same nonsense rhetoric that you hear from AOC. She has caused this rhetoric of this guy to be violent. And it's not just her. This is pretty much the entire Democrat Party. Not every member in the Democrat Party. Most of them. Now, there are a few that haven't. Like, one that's really shocked me is the senator from Arizona, Kristen Sinema, who's radically to the left. I don't know if she's just trying to hold her seat or what, but she has not been on board with this demonizing ICE facilities and actually has advocated for stronger borders. That one shocks me, but outside of her, really all of them have been on board with that, and I guess Joe Manchin hasn't either. But this guy goes in and he does this. Now, apparently he had a death wish. He was wanting to die, but in this manifesto he released, it's only 3 pages, not that long. It took me about, 3 minutes really to read, because the guy has no logic or reason in his brain whatsoever. But he refers to the detention centers as concentration camps, and he feels like you have to go free these people. Now, when you have Democrat politicians, the media going out saying, these are concentration camps, literally like the Nazis, I mean, some people are going to feel justified to go out and free these people. And that's why words matter. But the left, they don't care. Whatever gets them political points. Now, this person, William Van Spruzen, he goes in and says that he was radicalized at the age of 13 in a civics class. Radicalized at 13. Now, that's important, what I took away from that, because I have been a big, strong advocate that we need to do something about our public school systems and the radical leftist professors we have in them. Me, I grew up in the generation of these radical professors pushing an agenda on these students, and it's only getting worse because my generation has moved in to being the teachers and the professors. Me, I empathize with a lot of the students getting brainwashed because I was one of the few conservatives that were outspoken against the teachers and didn't really give a damn if they marked my grades wrong. Can't mark something that's wrong if it's not wrong. But then he goes on, Van Spruzen, to praise Howard Zinn. Now, for any of you who don't know who Howard Zinn is the fake historian leftist that created, what's that book called? The People's History of the United States. And it's really just a bashing, slandering of America, and we're white supremacists, and it's a bunch of pseudo-history that has been debunked routinely, and historians across the board have slandered this book that has actually been taught in all school systems, unfortunately. But he praises saying everyone should read that book, and it's, well, that's probably your problem if you're reading that book. And then at the end, he ends up calling for Antifa members to all get AR-15s. And don't worry that you are opposed of it, but it's because they need to follow through with what Van Spruzen, started with the shooting it up. He's calling for Antifa to arm themselves with AR-15s to come and attack normal citizens, by the way. Throughout the entire manifesto, he's mainly focusing on calling to action of violence and the revolution of communism, obviously. And it's quite alarming that the media, the mainstream media, will not even talk about this guy being part of Antifa. They say they don't even know what the motive is. They don't know what William Van Spruzen's motive is, even though he released a manifesto before he did it. He's an open Antifa communist member. But they didn't know what drove him, is what the media says. It's quite ridiculous and disgusting that the media plays these games. And CNN, what they have done with this guy, they have actually more involvement than what is shown. So here's going to be a clip of CNN actually ran a documentary of this group called the Rednecks Against Rednecks. So it's really redneck Antifa members in Tacoma, Washington, arming themselves with weapons to go fight against just Americans who own guns that they call rednecks. So and CNN then goes and praises and actually has a documentary, and William Van Spruzen is in this documentary that they aired in May. So here's a clip. Now, you're going to have to pay close attention because his face, here's the picture again. Get this image of his face in your head. On about 4 seconds into the clip I'm going to show you, 4 seconds in, you're going to see this head pop out in a crowd. So pay attention. 4 seconds into the clip I'm about to show you, you'll see his face pop out from the side of a crowd. So I hope you got a good look because you're going to be looking for it in the 4 second mark. And here it goes.
These white people are the Redneck Revolt. Now, they aren't a bunch of rednecks revolting against equality like I first thought. They're actually rednecks revolting against the rednecks who are revolting against equality. I'll explain.
I hope you caught it. So, he was in there. CNN did a piece on William Van Spruzen, who shot up, and they praised this group. CNN did that. But yet they say we're the ones who are promoting violence and with violent rhetoric. But apparently, as we all know, that's a lie. Apparently, this is the reality of how the left views it. Our speech is violence. But the left's violence is speech. So we should be charged with hate speech. But the left's violence should be protected by First Amendment speech. Does that make a damn bit of sense to anybody? Insane. Absolutely insane. Now, it doesn't stop there. It never stops there. Why should I even have to say that anymore? It never stops there. Black Lives Matter leader, Shaun King. Now, when you look at this, your eyes aren't lying to you. He's not black. He's white. This guy's a white guy. And no, he's not just a light-skinned black guy. He is actually white. He's a Black Lives Matter leader, Shaun King, who is a white guy that identifies as a black guy. Not kidding you. That's not a joke. That's actually real. And so Shaun King, who is the white guy that is a leader in the Black Lives Matter movement, he comes out and he praises this Antifa member. Praises him. And this is what he goes out and he tweets on the attacker, the Antifa terrorist. William Van Spruzen just became the first martyr attempting to liberate imprisoned refugees from a for-profit detention center in Tacoma, Washington. His hero was John Brown, the white abolitionist who led a raid on Harper's Ferry in 1859. This is what our country has come to. Well, first of all, John Brown was a Republican that was opposed to slavery and opposed Democrats. Second of all, he literally called him a martyr, a hero. He called this guy a hero, and he doesn't stop there. He never stops there. This guy's an idiot. I mean, he's a white guy that thinks he's black, that somehow got himself a high-ranking membership in the Black Lives Matter. So here he goes again. We are told that this is the final letter of William Van Spruzen, who was shot and killed by law enforcement as he attempted an attack for-profit refugee detention center in Tacoma, Washington. It's beautiful, painful, devastating letter. He wasn't crazy. Inaction is. He praised the manifesto that I gave you some bullet points to. That's what he praised. And then he goes on, and he shows a picture of where he was shot and killed, William Van Spruzen. And this is what he tweets. This is where William was murdered. He used the keyword, murdered. Murdered. An Antifa terrorist trying to blow up a government facility and shooting at police officers. That's not murder. That's being brought down as a criminal shooting at police officers. So he continues, though. His actions will be called terrorism, and people will call him crazy, but neither are true. His mind was very clear. He is now arm in arm with John Brown. These camps must be shut down. John Brown hated slavery. John Brown was fed up with slavery. John Brown led a revolt of a bunch of guys who said, to hell with it, we're going to go beat the hell out of some slave owners. That's who John Brown was. William Van Spruzen shot up a detention center of people that illegally crossed our border, that are trying to get through asylum and are not being mistreated and are welcome to leave at any point they want as long as they go back across the border. I don't know. I think you might be a little stretch here comparing him to John Brown. And yes, he's a terrorist, and I'm pretty sure terrorists are still sound of mind. Doesn't mean they ain't crazy. And this is important right here. What I'm going to show you, well, not show you, but read to you, is Shaun King actually back in, actually just a few, late last month, like a few weeks before William Van Spruzen shot up this detention center, Shaun King writes on Twitter a pretty much call of violence towards doing what William Van Spruzen did. And here's his tweet. History has taught us that concentration camps should be liberated. We cannot and should not wait until 2020 with the hope that we defeat Trump to free these children. We should liberate them now by any means necessary. Yes. This guy, the white guy that thinks he's a black guy that is in charge of Black Lives Matter, called for violence on this center, and violence happened. Now, here's the funny part. The children in cages, quotes obviously, That was going on under Obama. It's going on under George Bush. It was going on under Bill Clinton. Why? Because that law was passed under Bill Clinton. It was enforced by Bush. It was also enforced by Obama, and it is also being enforced by Trump. Trump has actually made it a better living facility than Obama did. What the hell are these people talking about? You didn't seem to care too damn much 8 years of Obama. We all said this was going on during the Obama era. We all said it. Conservatives have known about this for quite some time. Hence why we were saying we needed a wall back then to prevent illegals keep bringing children over, because we were making actually a big deal about it back then, but you and the media have ignored it. I mean, people like Glenn Beck and Dana Lash went to the border quite often to hand these children stuffed animals because what was going on wasn't right. Now, obviously, our stance is not, well, let's free the children now. Our stance was, hey, they're getting brought by people who aren't even their parents, and this shouldn't be happening, so let's fix our border situation. What is wrong with these delusional leftist Fruit Loops? I don't even get where they come up with these crazy statements that come into their mind. You kind of just want to say, when you have a thought, let it go. Just let it go. Now, as we've established, AOC and the radical Democrats, the Commie Squad in particular, they have been using this rhetoric for a while, and they were confronted about it of, hey, your rhetoric and what this guy did may have something related here. May have something related here. They were asked, do you condemn Antifa and the violence that just happened? They were asked this by a reporter from The Rebel, which is a Canadian news organization, and they wouldn't even respond. And here's AOC, who was asked about this, and she just kind of blew it off. So and refused to condemn Antifa.
Will you condemn Antifa for the attack in Washington?
We'll be making statements.
It's easy to condemn a terrorist attack. Will you be condemning Antifa?
We'll be making statements.
They firebombed an American facility. Will you condemn them?
Excuse us, we have to get to the minute.
Will you be condemning them? Do you feel like you have some responsibility in the attack with your rhetoric about concentration camps? Are you responsible? Do you feel ashamed?
Pretty absolutely ridiculous. You can't even condemn Antifa. I don't even understand how you can't condemn Antifa. It should be pretty basic. I mean, we know why they won't condemn Antifa, because they actually support Antifa. They like what Antifa has done, and AOC and that little bunch, they are involved with Antifa. There's no other way about it. They refuse to condemn it. And then Ilhan Omar was asked about it, confronted by the same journalist from The Rebel, and Omar laughs. She laughs about the whole situation, refuses to condemn Antifa, refuses to condemn them, but also laughs. This woman is just pure evil, pure evil. So here goes Ilhan Omar deciding she has to laugh about it.
It's the duo. Will you condemn Antifa? Do you feel like you have any sort of responsibility for their actions? It's just like your brother. When you ignored the questions about you marrying your brother, you couldn't answer it. Do you feel responsible for the violent attack against an ICE facility. It kind of blew up in your face when you didn't respond about your brother. It made it look like you married him.
Right here. Excuse me. Take you to the front.
You can finish that question now if you've come up with an answer. Did you marry your brother? Do you feel like you bear any responsibility for what happened?
We can go in the...
Mrs. Cortez, do you feel responsible at all? Will you tell Americans not to be violent anymore? Antifa to be exact.
Jesus, thank you. No, you can go.
Should Antifa stop being violent?
Okay, I'm closing the door.
Should Antifa stop being violent, and will you call for violence to stop from Antifa? No response but giggles. Could you imagine if that was from Trump? Let's say now this never happens, but let's just say a few Trump supporters go out there and stir up a little violence. Could you imagine if Trump went about getting asked about it and he refused to even answer it? No way would the media allow that to go away. No way would the leftists allow that to go away. They're terrible people. Now, the GOP, they sent out a response to establish the connection of how AOC is that involved to what this attacker did on the ICE facility. So here's AOC's statement to CNN before the ICE attack even happened on statements she makes. So similar to what the Antifa member wrote. So here it goes.
The president put millions of Americans in danger last night. His rhetoric is endangering lots of people. This is not just about threats to individual members of Congress, but it is about creating a volatile environment in this country through violent rhetoric that puts anyone like Ilhan, anyone who believes in the rights of all people in danger. And I think that he has a responsibility for that environment.
Yeah, she's a terrible person, has actually some responsibility to bear here. I'm not a big fan of saying when you say something and somebody does it if you didn't directly call it. She actually when you're calling something a concentration camp, a Nazi, a fascist, a racist, people are going to feel justified to go through with these actions when they're not true. Not to mention, fascism is on the left, racism clearly only is coming from the left. I don't really see that on the right. And, well, I mean, concentration camps, really? Concentration camps. I didn't know the migrants are getting rounded up. They're getting rounded up in other countries, getting brought over here, put in a facility, and we're about ready to gas them. And before we do that, we're going to make them do slave labor for us. These immigrants are crossing the border, knowing they're going to get detained likely, hoping they won't, but knowing they'll likely get detained. I don't think, at a conservative estimate, 3,000 immigrants a day would be crossing the border to go to those concentration camps. Do you? Pretty insane. Now, with this whole Antifa situation going on, and as some of you know, I started a petition to label, and it was actually for Ted Cruz, sent to him, to label Antifa as a domestic terrorist. Now, I did that after Andy Ngo was attacked, and I'm not saying this petition actually got it going, but got some pretty good signatures on it, and it seems like Ted Cruz and Bill Cassidy, two Republican senators, have followed through with it, and they are pushing for Antifa to become labeled a domestic terrorist organization. they're proposing this bill, since the Tacoma, Washington, obviously, situation, proposing the bill to label them as such. And Ted Cruz tweets out about it. Antifa is a terrorist organization composed of hateful, intolerant radicals who pursue their extreme agenda through aggressive violence. Time and time again, their actions have demonstrated that their central purpose is to inflict harm on those who oppose their views. Like any terrorist organization, they choose to pursue their political ends through violence, fear, and intimidation. They must be stopped. I am proud to introduce this resolution with Senator Bill Cassidy to properly identify what Antifa are: domestic terrorists. And Bill Cassidy also responded saying that he's following through with this as well, and they both put the bill up. This is something long overdue, and we needed this to be called. Now, some of me doesn't want it because I hate their violence, but we get to really use Antifa as a club to really beat over the head of Democrats during election time. But it is long overdue. Conservatives are getting beat down unjustly. Now, not in states like Texas, because Antifa's too scared to come into Texas. But because we can fight back here in Texas. And not only that, the police will help us. But they definitely have been using violence to push their ends. And that's illegal. That is domestic terrorism. And it also is going to be great. I think this will pass the Senate. You're going to see Democrats in the Senate vote against it, which is going to look bad, but it'll get past Senate. Then it'll get sent to the House. Now, it may or may not go up for a vote. It's kind of up to Democrat leadership. It probably won't get brought up to vote, but no matter what, Democrats come out looking bad in this situation, because unless they actually vote on it and vote that they are domestic terrorists, then they can actually come out looking good. Really, that actually is fearful for me that they do that, because then it's going to be like, oh, see, we condemned them. And the media is going to run with that. Now, I don't think that'll happen, and odds are Nancy Pelosi will not be bringing it up to the House bill. Democrats will not go on the vote as calling them domestic terrorists, and they're going to look bad that they are protecting Antifa. That's going to be a terrible look for Democrats, and it's going to be awesome for us when it comes to election time. I think it will probably be passed, but the Democrats, though, they get really radical. And it's not just Democrat politicians, but left-leaning organizations. The Miss World America, whatever you want to call it, stripped this woman, and her name is Kathy Zhu, stripped her of her title with this organization as a beauty queen. She was a beauty queen, and she's 20 years old, that went to Michigan University. She was beauty queen for Michigan. They removed her from the organization from racist, offensive tweets that she made. These tweets, oh, and not forget, she refused to wear a hijab visiting campuses. She's a conservative, religious Christian. Of course she's not going to wear a hijab. That's offensive to make her want to wear a hijab. But the racist, offensive tweets from this clearly Asian, she's Chinese American, I think she's natural born, but descent of Chinese, she was posting pictures of herself in Trump gear. That's it. That, and then she also tweeted out a statistics on black crime. FBI statistics on black crime. And that was deemed racist by this organization. Those are about as mainstream arguments and thoughts on the conservative movement as it gets. In other words, you're not allowed to be a conservative in this organization. If you actually cannot make those two stances, they are outright saying you cannot be. And so, this is what the letter sent when they said they're removing her. It has been brought to the attention of Miss World America that your social media accounts contain offensive, insensitive, and inappropriate content and in violation of MWA's rules and conditions, specifically the contestants' requirement of being a good character and whose background is not likely to bring into disrupt Miss World America or any person associated with the organization. Therefore, and effective immediately, MWA does not recognize you as a participant of any sort or in any capacity as it relates to any and all events of MWA. Furthermore, let this communication serve as official notice to remove any mention of yourself as a participant in MWA from all social media platforms, including photographs of you wearing the MWA Michigan and or crowned and any text claiming to be participant of MWA events. I mean, she ends up replying and saying you're ridiculous and pointing out that she has a right for her stances. This is ridiculous to what the left has done. Absolutely ridiculous. We stand with this girl. She needs our support. But honestly, don't sweat it. You don't want to be a part of that organization anyways. I hope you're the best. You seem intelligent. You went to Michigan, or go to it still. You'll be fine in life. Just screw them. Screw them. Almost hit the wrong button there. So, President Trump, it's President Trump versus the Commie Squad. The good old Commie Squad. Everyone loves that Commie Squad, right? So who are the Commie Squad? Who are they? I'll go from left to right on that screen. Or right side. So we'll start with Ilhan Omar. We'll just go that way. Because she's the most obvious to know. So Ilhan Omar, the one with the hijab on, the headscarf. She is a congresswoman from Minnesota. Next is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, congresswoman from New York. You probably already knew all them too. Then you got the next two are less known. You got Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts, congresswoman, and Rashida Tlaib from Michigan, congresswoman. These are all freshman congresswomen in the Democrat Party, all radical socialist communists. These are the ones Trump is at war with. What started was Trump sent out a tweet saying that these women, well, actually, no, he didn't even say these women. He didn't even notify if it was man, woman, race. I think he notified only it was in the Democrat Party. But saying they bash America, yet they come from other countries that, well, pretty much are shitholes. And they should go fix them first before you bash America. Now, Trump was just upset because they're bashing America. Now, is it clear he probably was referring to at least, I would say he was at minimum referring to Ilhan Omar, potentially Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I don't know how Ayanna Pressley got in that. I mean, she just kind of threw herself in there. And Rashida Tlaib, maybe not referring to her. Now, obviously only Ilhan Omar is the only non-naturalized citizen here. The other three were born here. But Trump's point still stands. They hate America. These are radical commies that hate America. They have never talked good about America. And I don't know what they're doing in office if they hate it. They shouldn't be serving in there. Now, the media and the Democrats, they were like, oh, racist. And they held a press conference with these four women. Even though that none of them were mentioned by name, but they all said that it was me, which kind of establishes that they do acknowledge subconsciously they hate America. And his point was accurate. So they whined, bitched, and moaned in a press conference that didn't really look good for them and the Democrat Party about that statement. Trump then was asked, and he was like, in a press conference, and he was like, no. I was saying, if they hate America, they can go somewhere, leave. If you hate America, just leave. We don't need you here. Because you shouldn't be in Congress if you hate America. These women hate America. Absolutely hate America. And the media has attempted desperately to get these, to make this look like it's racism. The GOP, though, they fired back quickly with a video just insulting these radical foursomes as just terrible people. So here goes the video that they released.
The United States is running concentration camps on our southern border. Never again means something. If this organization is as fascist as you have called it,
I've said it's fascist.
and you have said it's fascist, then why don't you adopt the stance to eliminate it?
Your colleague who was at the border with you compared the facilities to a concentration camp. Do you agree with that comparison?
Absolutely.
You will see the light, and if you don't, we will bring the fire.
A car in the parking lot was torched, and investigators say the suspect threw flares at a propane tank, trying to make it explode.
They took down an American flag and a Colorado state flag, and instead, as you see in some of this video, they raised a Mexican flag.
We are learning new details about the man who threw explosive devices at an immigration detention center in Tacoma, Washington.
Will you condemn Antifa for attacking an ICE facility? Will you condemn the Antifa attack in Washington over the weekend? Will you condemn Antifa for the attack in Washington?
Now, the GOP, they released this video because during that press conference, they were saying that Trump's rhetoric was going to cause violence for them. Obviously, that's not true. I question if they even get death threats, to be honest. But the GOP established, look at all the violent rhetoric you have said, from you four specifically, with that video. It establishes they are violent people. They have called for violence, and they just are projecting their violent rhetoric on us. And soon after, Trump has that amazing, exciting rally in North Carolina, Greenville, North Carolina. It was fantastic. I hope you watched it. If you haven't, go to PCV TV on YouTube, on there. You can also go to preserveconservativevalues.com. It's on there. The Bryan Show Facebook and Twitter. But I assume most of you have watched it by now. During it, a chant happened. Send her home. Send her back, about when he started speaking of Ilhan Omar. And the media tried to label it as Trump is a racist. He wanted that, and Trump shut down. He's like, I didn't really want that. I personally didn't mind it. I liked it, because we need to send Ilhan Omar back home. She's illegally here. But Trump shut that down, and the the Democrats, though, quickly tried to start, after this transpired, the tweet, the send her home chant, tried to impeach President Trump. So Al Green, from Houston, congressman, Democrat, he's an idiot. Al Green is a sex predator, loves himself some prostitutes, pays them off on taxpayer dime, worth $871,000, just saying. But they brought up a vote on the House, because of Al Green, and no, not the singer Al Green, who's kind of pretty good, talented, the deplorable Tom Green of Democrat Party. They brought up a resolution to impeach Trump, and it got voted on. This House resolution failed pretty dang quickly. The vote ended up being 332 opposed impeachment, 95 wanted impeachment, and 1 refused to vote. It failed. Democrats have been chanting impeach, impeach, impeach. They had their chance to push forward with impeaching. They had the votes. But when push came to shove, they didn't vote for it. I think maybe this might be a little bit of a political game they're playing. They don't seem to actually want to impeach because they know Trump hasn't done anything wrong to impeach him. But won't stop them from being radical. It does expose them to a rational-minded person. And the CNN, they try to push this narrative. They're pushing it hard. And they bring in a bunch of Republican women from Dallas, about, 10? You'll see in a second. And trying to get them to say, well, we don't agree with Trump anymore because of his tweet, and it's racist. However, none of them agreed. It backfires quickly, and CNN looks like the political hacks they are. So here's that clip.
Next year, voters are, of course, going to have their say. So we were curious whether the president's base was still behind him, particularly his female supporters. Did any object to his racist attack on the 4 female lawmakers? Or is it all just politics, as Mike said earlier? 360's Randy Kay spoke with some of them in Dallas.
How many of you don't think what the president said was racist? Raise your hand.
These 8 Republican women from Dallas don't see anything wrong with President Trump telling 4 Democratic congresswomen to go back where they came from.
He was saying that if they hate America so much, because what we're seeing out of them and hearing out of them, they hate America. If it's so bad, there's a lot of places they can go.
I'm a brown-skinned woman. I am a legal immigrant. I agree with him.
You don't think that's racist to say that?
Not at all.
No. Actually, I think it's just it's a demonstration of how their ideology spills over. Even though they're American now, so to speak, they're not acting American.
I'm glad that the president said what he said, because all they're doing is they're inciting hatred and division, and that's not what our country's about. It's not about that at all, and
Isn't that what the president does with some of his own comments? His own racist comments?
But he didn't say anything about color.
We know the president is not racist. He loves people from, Hispanics to black people, all across the board.
Let me just share with you the definition of racism from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. A belief that race is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. Based on that definition, do you not think what the president has been saying to these
No,
people?
he dated a black woman for 2 years. 2 of his wives are immigrants. He is not a xenophobic racist.
The black billionaire is endorsing President Trump.
Yeah.
How can you call him racist?
So these congresswomen who said they ran for Congress, ran for office because they explicitly love this country, you're saying that's a lie.
So
yes.
You're saying they hate this country.
Yes.
Whoever wrote these questions up, it's clearly that they're very manipulative to accuse instead of extracting the truth.
It's a tactic.
Because when you say, don't you think he's racist? You're accusing us. You're accusing him.
I'm asking. I'm not accusing. I'm asking you what you think.
But you've been told. It's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with the real issue. It has nothing to do with the premise of the issues here.
Exactly. And whenever someone...
The color of the floor. Why do you keep bringing it up?
Do you think it's just a coincidence that these 4 congresswomen that the president is going after, none of them are white?
Yes,
they're going after him.
Ideology.
Exactly. I don't think it matters. It's idiotic what they're saying. So it doesn't matter whether they're white, man, woman, brown, yellow, anything.
I wish that there was a white one that why are they not racist? How come they haven't befriended one of their white female congresswomen colleagues and let her join
because they won't.
That's a good point.
They don't like white people. Come on. They're racist.
How many of you still plan to vote for President Trump?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Randy Kay, CNN, Dallas.
And CNN flipped out over this, and they're like, how racist that they wouldn't even condemn him because he wasn't racist. He never mentioned race, and she tried to spew the definition of racism, which honestly proved their point. They're idiots. CNN is idiots. And them women have a point. Those 4 congresswomen do hate white people. They are racist. But CNN's okay with that racism. They're okay with that racism because they're on the left. And they hate white people. So that's not racist, right? So racists are like this woman, Ayanna Pressley, who is the African-American one of the 4 communist squad. She has actually quite a racist little recent history even. So on July 9th, she responded back to Kellyanne Conway, who I love. Kellyanne Conway is awesome, works for President Trump in the White House. Kellyanne Conway. She tweets back at Kellyanne Conway, and this is what she says. Kellyanne, oh, hi, distraction, Becky. Remember that time your boss tore babies from the mother's arms and threw them in the cages? Yeah, take a seat and keep my name out of your lying mouth. I'm going to re-say the part that was actually really racist. Kellyanne, oh, hi, distraction, Becky. Now, Becky is not actually meant to be just a name. As you know, Kellyanne Conway, there's no Becky in her name. What Becky is, and it typically is for African Americans who use this, it's a very racist term. Becky is calling white women, it's a derogatory term towards white women. It's meant to be derogatory. And she used it. No condemnation from the left, nothing. Not even a little bit. And then it goes on. Ayanna Pressley. So just so you know, if anyone says that, remember, she called Kellyanne Conway Becky, which is, you might as well call a white person Cracker, or you might as well call a black person Uncle Tom. Same kind of derogatory nonsense. So here's Ayanna Pressley, though, giving a speech where she says, we don't need black voices. We don't need black people if they're not going to be black voices. And by what she means by black voices means you got to be radically to the left like she is. And if you're a black person who spews anything conservative and freedom, no, you're not a black voice. Really racist rant, and here it goes.
Yes, I do quote Shirley Chisholm a lot, who said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring your own folding chair. But I've amended that because I don't want to bring a chair to an old table. This is the time to shake the table. This is the time to redefine that table. Because if you're going to come to this table, and for all of you that have aspirations of running for office, for whatever lived experience and identity that you represent, if you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. Come on, speak it. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up. Because we need you to represent that voice. The midterm elections of 2018, they spoke a lot about each of our magic. I would never give short shrift to any of our magic, but this is work, and we put it in every day.
Pretty racist rant, but the media on the left, no, that's not racist, that's good. Good job, Ayanna Pressley. Ridiculous. The hypocritical left is out of their mind. And then Ilhan Omar was asked by, I forgot her name, but an ABC's reporter, you'll see it in the second the clip. I forgot her name. But she was asked, do you regret your anti-Semitic statements? And Ilhan Omar, absolutely not. Unapologetic. She has no qualms with what she said that's anti-Semitic. And here goes that clip.
Do you think that that kind of language is helpful, and what did you hope would come of that?
No, I mean, from day one, I truly believe that he has committed impeachable offenses. And me, you know...
But even if you believe that, the fact
cursing,
that you called him...
I didn't do it on the House floor. And I'm going to be unapologetic in myself. 70% of Americans curse. I'm real. This is who I am. I'm rooted in where I come from, and it's very common for me and for many of my residents to say things like that. But
so you don't regret
absolutely not. I'm unapologetic about it. I'm definitely going to push forward in saying we have to impeach him.
We also asked Congresswoman Ilhan Omar about her past comments suggesting some politicians' support for Israel is motivated by money. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle denounced those comments as anti-Semitic.
Oftentimes there are things that you might say might not hold weight for you, but to someone else, right? The way that we hear and consume information is very different than how the next person might.
So you don't regret your words either?
I do not, but I have gotten I am grateful for the opportunity to really learn how my words made people feel and have taken every single opportunity I've gotten to make sure that people understood that I apologize for it. And
would you like people to?
She is unapologetic for any anti-Semitic statements. She's all fine with it. It's all good. Pretty insane. Now her anti-Semitism doesn't stop there. Her anti-Semitism continues. She's called out for it routinely, and she continues. And over late last week, she proposes the BDS movement to the House. BDS, the boycott, divestment, sanctions on Israel. Really anti-Semitic, really disgusting to have our government want to boycott Israel. Here's Omar then comparing the BDS movement, the same as the Boston Tea Party, with Sam Adams and the Founding Fathers standing up for our freedom of against unfair taxation. And then also compares boycotting Israel is the same as when we boycotted the Nazis in World War II. The Jews were gassed and 6 million were killed by the Nazis, but somehow the Jewish country is the same as the Nazi Germany anti-Semitic country. Makes sense? Well, here goes that clip.
But as in all diplomacy, truly pursuing peace isn't just about punishing bad behavior. We must support efforts to end the occupation and achieve two-state solution. I believe firmly that the path to peace does not lie in a violent means. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal. We should condemn in the strongest terms violence that perpetuates the occupation, whether it is perpetuated by Israel, Hamas, or individuals. But if we are going to condemn violent means of resisting the occupation, we cannot also condemn nonviolent means. We cannot simultaneously say we want peace, then openly oppose peaceful means to hold our allies accountable. It is precisely when people feel hopeful, when people feel that nonviolence does not work, that their voices won't be heard, that they turn towards violence. This week, I introduced a resolution with civil rights leader, our colleague, John Lewis, and Rashida Tlaib, who know the importance of nonviolence movements. It recognizes the proud history of boycott movements in this country dating back to the Boston Tea Party. We should honor these movements and that history. And we should honor our commitment to the principles that say we must hold our friends to the same standards.
She's absolutely insane, and it's a disgusting movement. Anyone who supports the BDS movement is a terrible human being, and you don't belong in America. I'm not going to get time today to break down how Ilhan Omar, again, more evidence. I don't have time to break that down today. Maybe tomorrow we'll see. But I'm going to move on, still on this topic. So anyways, Democrats are whining, complaining, moaning, saying, send her back as disgusting and racist and bigoted. However, Twitchy uncovered, which is a webpage that goes through a lot of old tweets, uncovered a bunch of blue checkmark Democrats on Twitter, Democrat supporters, media, all of them, back from 2017 through 2018, even up to today, with the trending hashtag Deport Melania Trump. They've been calling for deporting Melania Trump. Not racist, not xenophobic, I don't understand how, but then send her back is really the worst thing ever that happened in America. They're insane. They're hypocrites. Not only that, if any of you remember when Sebastian Gorka, who used to work for the White House under Trump for a little bit, and is a very great conservative and does a pretty good job on his podcast, when he was working for Trump White House, Senators Dick Durbin and Congressman Jerry Nadler were demanding for his citizenship papers because he's from UK, would try in an attempt to try to deport him. Now, he was a legal citizen and for quite some time, but yet they tried. Yet somehow Trump is the racist xenophobe. They're hypocrites. And Trump, though, he fires back. After all this, yesterday, on Sunday, Trump fires back on Twitter and says, "I don't believe the 4 congresswomen are capable of loving our country. They should apologize to America and Israel for the horrible, hateful things they have said. They are destroying the Democrat Party, but are weak and insecure people who can never destroy our great nation." 100% correct. Now, why has Trump decided, though, when they were fighting with Nancy Pelosi, there was a big infight within the Democrat Party. Why wasn't Trump fired on this? Why wasn't Trump went after him? I'll tell you why. It's quite brilliant. New poll comes out. A new poll from the Democrats, actually, and it was released by Axios. The Democrats were trying to figure out how they were going to do with the swing votes and in swing states and in middle of America. Well, it turns out a lot of the Democrat voters, according to the Democrats' polling in these swing states, weren't finding Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Ilhan Omar very favorable. So the findings found, of these people they polled, 74% of the voters recognized who AOC is, and of them people, only 22% of them found her favorable, which is a very terrible rating. Very terrible. For Ilhan Omar, 53% of them recognized who she was, and only 9% found her favorable. They're hated. In other words, they're hated, and Trump wants this to be, when you come up to election 2020, it's either Trump or the Commie Squad. It's quite brilliant. He forced the Democrats to have to embrace them. Now when the people go to vote, they're going to have to think of the Commie Squad when they're voting for the Democrat Party. It's brilliant. That's why Trump picked this fight. It goes to show he's playing 3D chess while they're playing tic-tac-toe. And Trump's going to win. Trump's going to win. It was quite a brilliant move. However, that's it for today, guys. I kind of ran over my time by 6 minutes. So, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. We'll break down the world of politics again tomorrow. Have a phenomenal Monday afternoon.